So pleased to have Preston Whiteway on, the Executive Director of the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center. And I just pointed out we have to get the center in there because there's a lot of stuff going on at the O'Neill.
It's really exciting.
So we're 50 years old now. Tell me how it got its start.
Sure. The O'Neill pioneered the whole idea of play development, that there would be a step before full production for a play or a musical. So this had never existed before in the American theater, and it all was born here in the state of Connecticut. Just like the Schubert in New Haven was famous for trying out new musicals on their way to Broadway in the 40s and 50s, the O'Neill pioneered the next step for a play's development. And so what that means is, way back when, this property, it's a beautiful estate overlooking the ocean. Many acres,
yes.
Right next to Harkness State Park in Waterford, Connecticut. Gorgeous spot. And the town bought it from the family, the Hammond family, and didn't know what to do with the buildings. They wanted the estate for the town beach, which it still is, a town beach there, but had no idea what to do with these decrepit, at the time, falling down buildings. And a local man, a man named George C. White, who grew up in a family of visual artists, his grandfather was a Connecticut impressionist, he decided there could be, he was a very young man at the time, he was 26, 27 years old, and decided there could be a better idea for the buildings than to burn them all down, which was the best.
Which is what they were going to do. They were going to burn the buildings down.
As a fire exercise. They had no better idea. And said, well, there's got to be something better than that. So he had just come out of Yale School of Drama as a graduate and decided, what if we had a conference, a playwrights conference that first summer? And this was, so we got started in '64, and that following summer, '65, was the first National Playwrights Conference, was how we got started, first program. And at that time, it was really just a gathering of very angry, very young playwrights by the name
Making no money.
Making no money.
Right.
Sam Shepard, Israel Horowitz, Edward Albee, John Guare.
Anybody who's anybody passed through there.
Exactly.
Including Meryl Streep and Michael Douglas.
They all get their start there.
So it becomes kind of a camp.
In a way.
For theater
camp,
folks.
Yes.
And they cut their teeth there.
Mm-hmm.
You now, fast forward 50 years, you are all kinds of things. There's a lot of exciting things going on at the O'Neill, right in Connecticut. And we should point out there's so many theaters in this state of 3 million people.
We are so lucky.
We are so blessed.
Yes, to have this amount of wonderful professional theater is the envy of every other state in the nation. In fact, we go to these, the group of us go to these national conferences, and we get constant feedback of how do you all do it? Because we all work so well collectively together to advocate for Connecticut theater, both to the State House, but to the nation. And a lot of the other theaters around the country are jealous.
A lot of nonprofit work going on here. So 50 years.
50 years of the O'Neill.
So let's show some pictures so the folks know. The first picture that we're going to see of the O'Neill is the barn.
The barn, the beautiful, iconic barn that was original to the property, built about the middle of the 1800s, about 1860, and it now, you know, we cleared it out of all the vestiges of its barnness in the 60s.
What goes on in there?
And now we mostly in the summertime we do musicals in there. It's named after the Rose family, Rufus and Margot Rose, who were the creators of Howdy Doody and lived locally in Waterford, and helped create the O'Neill, the two of them, and we honored them by naming the barn after them. And we started doing musicals there, including a little musical called Avenue Q, which was there in 2002.
Oh, gee, it went to Broadway, I guess.
It did go to Broadway and won the best musical. Stole it from under Wicked that same year.
Okay, let's look at the next picture.
There it is. There's Avenue Q and John Tartaglia with the bad idea bears next to him in development. So what the O'Neill does as a play development center is it allows the writers to come up with an unfinished piece, a promising but unfinished piece, play, musical, puppetry, cabaret, and they workshop it. They put it up in front of an audience, see what's working. It's not fully realized. It is not fully sets with full realized sets, costumes, and lights, but it's very simply done in front of, often in front of music stands. We require that the actors keep the script in their hands, so they're not off book, they are on book. And the idea being there that we're here to serve the author, not to serve the actor. We're here to give the best possible experience to the author of the piece, the playwright, to allow the piece to grow. And then next step.
Where else in the country do they do this? Very few places?
Very few places. Redford came out and studied us and then created Sundance institute to do for screenwriters what we do for playwrights and composers.
So a lot of firsts in Connecticut.
A lot of firsts in Connecticut.
All right, next picture is part of this.
Avenue Q team, the creative team there. Jeff Marks is on the right, and then Jason Moore sitting behind the piano with, to the left, Bobby Lopez, who just had a very successful movie called Frozen, writing the music for that.
Gee, I hadn't heard of that one. The number one selling doll for little girls this Christmas, I think, is from Frozen. So. Now, this is exciting. The next picture. There's a lot of construction going on there.
So 50 years
now,
of the O'Neill.
Good Speed did this at about the same time that you guys
We were just getting started, yes. We took a little longer for us to get off the starting block. But
these are beautiful structures.
Same idea, similar idea. We are expanding with 9 new buildings, 9 new residential cottages, and a rehearsal building. All with the idea of expanding our housing rehearsal space to accommodate a new National Music Theater Institute, which is going to be an undergraduate semester away of study, unique in the nation, unique in the world, again here in Connecticut, at the O'Neill. We have, for 40 years, have had this National Theater Institute, NTI, which is a dramatic study away program for a student to come. Instead of going to London for a semester to study theater, they would come to us from Ithaca, from UCLA, from UVA, and do a term with us in dramatic training. Now we're adding the buildings to accommodate a musical theater training. So a student not only learns to sing and dance, but learns how to compose, learns how to choreograph the dance, learns how to direct for the musical, design for the musical. It's totality of training, and it's 7 days a week. They don't get a day off. They don't get a night off. They love it.
How many people do you house? How many students?
We're expanded to 65 per semester plus faculty.
And is it the creme de la creme that comes here? I mean, how do you get to be a student there at the O'Neill?
You apply. All the application details are on the website, www.theo'neill.org. And you apply. It's somewhat self-selecting. Not everybody wants to go to a theater boot camp.
What time of year do you apply?
It's rolling admissions, but deadlines are October and March for the October for the following
I'm doing
spring.
the plug here for you.
I love it. I love it. And the next one coming up is March for the coming fall 2015.
We have other photos.
Yes, so here's the next one, the new rehearsal barn that just went up in front of it, and it's named after Jim and Jane Henson, the Muppeteers, who created the Muppets, of course, and they were very involved with the O'Neill and our puppetry program.
Which is huge at UConn.
It is.
The puppetry program.
It is.
Is it the only one in the United States?
University of Hawaii is the only other one at an undergraduate level that trains in puppetry, so it's very rare.
And in the continental
United States, it is the only one. So we have we have a program for aspiring puppeteers. It's a 2-week program, similar, but we're very well connected with the UConn program. So that's a rehearsal barn named after the Henson family, of course.
And in the last picture, what's going on here?
So we're moving the box office. So
where do we move it to?
It's probably a better location. It was as you drove in the main entrance, but it was nowhere near any of the theater venues. So we're going to move the box office, surprise, surprise, to nearby the theater venues. So good access. It's right next to the barn now.
Tell me about some recent stars that hang out here and what have they done? Now we know that Michael Douglas came here, cut his teeth on acting.
In the early years.
His dad said, "You're no good." So he goes there, he starts to learn acting, he comes back many times. Is there a romance about the O'Neill of all these big stars? And you name them for me: Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep, Jennifer Garner, John Krasinski more recently, Al Pacino, Wendy Wasserstein, August Wilson.
And they were nothing until you got a hold of them.
Well,
is that correct?
I mean, they had some talent. Let's be real. But yes. What's wonderful about the O'Neill, we call ourselves the launch pad of the American theater. In that you cut your teeth, as you say, very well. The artists come to us, and they're usually unknown at that time. So as an audience member, it's fun to come and say, "Hey, I saw In the Heights with Lin-Manuel Miranda, but when he was just a kid, and now he's a big musical theater star, writing Hamilton now, going into the public in New York this spring." Or I saw an NTI final project with Jennifer Garner in it, and then she went to go star in Alias, or John Krasinski, and then he went within a year he was on The Office after being with us.
What does the O'Neill have to do with Moscow? What's going on there?
Sure. So our founder, George C. White, in the 70s started collaborating and bringing Russian playwrights to America to develop new Russian plays, Soviet plays at the time, and sending Americans over there. We were one of the only cultural bridges between our two nations. When Carter shut down all ties, we remained. And so since that time, we were the first program that an American student can go study for a semester at the Moscow Art Theater School, which is the source of all Stanislavski training. All what we know as method acting in this country draws from that school. So a lot of Americans want to go study over there, and we have that program. Harvard liked the program so much that they created a graduate program based on it. But we have the undergrad program. It's been going on for about 23 years now, and recognized at the highest levels of American and Russian government, and it's a real success story of collaboration between our two nations.
There's a book that came out this year, as well it
exciting.
should, for 50 years.
Thank you.
The O'Neill, The Transformation of the Modern American Theater.
Yes.
What are we going to find in this book?
So you'll find fun stories, fun behind-the-scenes stories of a birthing theater center, of things that went right, but a lot of things that went wrong, and almost disastrously so, but in a funny, and looking back on it, it's a bit funny. And hearing how Sam Shepard stormed out of that first conference.
So you get under the hood a bit.
Exactly. You see how it all works. Yeah, that's a good metaphor. You see how it all works and plugs in together, and a little bit of the dirt, and but a lot of the success. And you see a great foreword by Meryl about how she felt like a trapeze artist at the O'Neill, and just having to go with your first instinct because there's no time. You just have to. You go, and a lesson that I'm quoting here, a lesson that she's carried with her whole life is just to go with that first instinct.
A good gut.
A good gut, exactly. That's
I'll
what
have
the
to
O'Neill
develop
gives you.
that. As executive director of the O'Neill, what has this taught you? You started, I'm assuming, as an actor, sing, dance, act. The triple threat, that's what you do. Now you find yourself all these many years now as executive director here. What is this? I mean, what are you doing here? Why are you the executive director?
I am so fortunate to lead an organization that has such a wide breadth and such an, it touches just about every aspect of American theater around the country, and it affects the world. But how I got here, I was a kid. I was an undergraduate at Duke University and down south, and the O'Neill at the time, was about a little more than 10 years ago, was looking for a general manager, and the O'Neill at the time was also suffering financially quite seriously. It was,
as a nonprofit does.
From time to time, and it was pretty dark days for the O'Neill, but I am grateful it launched my career. They hired a kid right out of school and a background in economics, but also a theater one. I was on stage in those days, and I love this place, and learned a lot with a team of folks, the executive director at the time, and board chairman. We turned the place around financially slowly, and now we're flying high. Expanding with an $8 million capital campaign, and launching a new national program in undergraduate study away.
So you're looking pretty good as executive director.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. But I have a good team with me. I would not be a good executive director. The team with me is spectacular.
Well, it always takes a team.
It does.
You are also a Tony Award voting member. What does this mean?
So I was just in June put onto the Tony Award nominating committee, which is a group of 50 people who nominate for the Tony Awards and have to go see everything. And really,
I know. Hate when this happens.
I know, it's so awful. It's a wonderful opportunity, and I'm just thrilled. As the little 15-year-old in me is just the theater nerd in me is just over the moon that I'm part of it all. So
the next 50 years for the O'Neill, what happens, do you think?
So what's exciting, the O'Neill has always existed to push the art form forward and support the next generation of American artists in theater. So my commitment, the board's commitment to do that, in addition to the new National Study Away program in musical theater, we're looking for how is theater changing? Now there's exciting devised work, which means theater that doesn't have a script, that is created by an ensemble of people where everybody writes and directs and creates the piece themselves, like Sleep No More, if you've heard of it in New York, which is an immersion experience in
It's Macbeth. A crowd surfing
exactly.
kind of thing, and social media now comes into everything.
So how can the O'Neill support that version of American theater? And so that's what's exciting with our new buildings, our new space. We have the world is our oyster to help support. So I'm excited to, I don't even know where we'll be taken, but I'm excited to start supporting devised work, and then the next chapter, when that chapter comes.
Well, Preston Whiteway, thank you so much for coming on to talk about the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center.
And so next summer, I hope your viewers can come join us and see the great new work, and say they were there then, when the plays then make it in New York or around the country.
I love it. Thanks.
Thank you, Ann.
Made a trivial pursuits when one this end. Who's this girl gonna spend all night kissing, and if one was right here, then who else is missing? Got a little sidetracked if I'm so wishing I could find the keys to the door, but it's also a metaphor. Things to keep locked in the grocery store, the mind just to save time. I'll skip right ahead to the last ride. The harder we look, the less we can see. Don't you know, you know, you know that you need me.